Welcome to Getting Back Up, where grief meets growth.
Two men, two fathers, and one shared journey of rebuilding.
We're talking about life after cancer, love, loss, and everything no one tells you.
Well, let's get into it. This is Getting Back Up.
Finding life after death.
This is Jamal Jones, and
I'm David McClain.
And it's going to be a good show today.
I think so. We're gonna dig in a little bit more. I think this idea in particular of when a spouse is passing away, in some situations, that survivor, in your case, wants that person to be happy and eventually find somebody else.
Yeah.
In certain situations that we've heard from some people, they think it's disrespectful to find anybody else after essentially either the love of their life or the woman they have committed themselves to for the foreseeable passes away. So it's those two situations, and you have to be happy. Certainly that's what the spouse who has passed wants the survivor, wants for the survivor. So it's a discussion.
Yeah.
It's a discussion for sure. So we'll kind of cover a few and where you have been with that and where I'm going. But this also lends itself to those of you who are trying to figure out what works best for you, what arrangements or discussions that you have had in a very trying time, particularly when the spouse it's clear that spouse won't be here anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And don't forget what you told me your auntie used to say.
Oh, you can't live in the grave.
Yeah.
You can't live in the grave.
You can't. And it's true. And I think that's where a lot of people, to your point, get worried and they get caught up about, when's the right time to move forward or, family members, friends have their perspective and their thought of when you should move forward and what's ready. And we talked about that. Everybody's dealing with their own grieving process. But, I think it goes back to what we talked about in the previous episodes. You feel that need for connection when you feel that need for connection.
Yeah.
And some people fight it and some people don't. And I think, it's up to everybody individually to decide what they ultimately want to do. But
you have to find happiness. You're the survivor. You have children.
Yeah.
What's going to make sense moving forward? Just it's something that has to be considered.
Yeah. And I think, you talked about the community. I think you just have to figure out what you want to either sustain, what you either want to. I think you have the opportunity to go into a relationship, hopefully grabbing the best practices and the best experiences and trying to see if that's something you could bring forward, or it's something where, like in my case, I said in so many ways that I needed to do it differently, and in so many ways, my late wife also said, you need to do it differently. Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's like bringing those two pieces to the table, and through my journey and process of figuring out what's next, who's next.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That was a big part of that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, no question.
But, and then here I am now.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll spend some time there. Yeah. I think, last time we talked about a lot of your dating experiences and the lessons, and now it's bringing this forward for me in particular. I'm married.
Yeah.
And found that person after going through my journey, my struggle, my challenges, but I found that person. And so, it's
and then there was Jordan.
Yeah. And there's Jordan.
Then there's another, there's another book to be written. On this.
Definitely a book. Definitely a book.
Yeah. So let me ask you. So let's move into how you arrived essentially at this point where you're moving forward. Backing up, what were the dynamics in the household when you were with Janice that kind of ultimately, once you started to think about a companion and moving forward, and then ultimately making the decision Jordan was the one.
Yeah, I think so. Just if everybody recalls, if you're just stepping in for the first time listening, before my late wife passed away, we were on the precipice of divorce, right? Like it had been a regular conversation. It was something that I'm sure we both would have conversations, or we did have conversations about, more often than you want to in a relationship. But it was based and driven, but because we were both not happy in our marriage. She was a great friend, great mother, but from a marriage standpoint, we just butt heads a lot on a lot of different things. And, I think part of it was, we talked a little bit about when you're dating somebody or you're previously married, you bring that forward in those experiences into your next marriage. And in some cases, it's hard to separate yourself from the trauma and the pain. In some cases, it's not. And for Janice, in many ways, it was difficult for her to separate herself from some of those painful memories that made her, in many cases, mistrustful. And I had to deal with that. And on the flip side, I didn't, it was my first marriage, right? I won't say young, but you know what you know. I walked in, my parents have been married 55 years. So I have kind of this romanticized vision of marriage. And, my dad, I don't think I ever really saw my parents have like real conflict and arguments. I would see them get into it. My dad would, my mother would get upset. My dad would raise his voice like to this lowest level of octave just to let her know that he's serious, and then he'd leave. And the next morning I'd come back and, I'd see them in the kitchen and they're hugging and talking. And I'm like, oh, it's over. So that's how I resolved. Okay. Right. So for me, I didn't know how to resolve, conflict. Right. Me and Janice would get into it and I'd be like, I'm done. And I'm leaving. I'll come back a couple hours later and, hey, and she's like, get away from me, right? Like,
you thought,
I was like, this isn't working, right?
Time was the magic.
Time was the magic.
And it's all forgotten.
But think about it. Yeah. If we leave, we're arguing, I leave, mistrust.
Sure.
It kicks in. Where's he going? Right.
And to whom, man?
And to whom, right. So that was just this cycle, right? Yeah. And we couldn't break the cycle. So all of that to say, it just created this dynamic of marriage where we both weren't kind of tapping into the best things and the best people of ourselves. So when Janice passed away and I got to the point when I was ready to date, like I was very intentional about one, like I'm at my counselor every week, talking to her, reflecting on not just my mistakes, but just the general mistakes in the marriage. How can I do better? She's checking me like, yeah, Jamal, that's not healthy communication. And being able to think about that as I'm going through the dating process, it allowed me to really reflect on where are the things that I really need to work on. But it also caused me to think about, and we talked about this previously, what are the things that we look for in a partner? And for me, it was definitely patience. It was, somebody who's, we all have some element of the trust issues, but somebody where that wasn't really baked into their core part, this massive part of their DNA. And then again, just the trauma, the PTSD of, the cancer was like, I wanted somebody who was like in the health game with me, like in the gym, working out, focusing on what we're eating, like not vegan, right? So
you can only control what you can control.
You can control what you can control.
And hypersensitivity to that person, that next person.
And that was really, I think of it was this aspect of somebody who's going to grow with me, understand that I'm not perfect and I'm going to make mistakes and I come with trauma in different levels, but also somebody who is also self-reflective and, willing to look at me and say, well, like, okay, like, yeah, I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate this. Like these elements of just balance that I didn't actually have.
How early do you think you had a friendship, obviously, with Jordan first, and then it became something more serious that we talked about in past episodes to a great extent. We can recount anything here if you need to, but when did you start to really put maybe what you learned with the therapist, thinking more back to missteps in your previous relationship? When did you kind of put it all out there so she kind of knew and you guys could talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think because we were friends and I think we had some conversations, right? We talked a lot about like kind of relationship dynamics just in general. But I think probably when we got to the point, and this was maybe a year,
Okay.
right? When we got to the point of, okay, this feels like a relationship that's more than just friends. I think at that point we started having these conversations because she had ended a relationship as well, and we were both in this place of like kind of understanding what it was we were looking for in the next relationship, right? In our next, like, I don't think either one of us were in this place of just like, hey, I'm gonna just be out here playing the field for the next 5 years, right? I think it was more like being very reflective on who we are, who we were in our previous relationships, and how do we be better and find completeness in a partner, right? As best as completeness is in a partner. So I would say it was probably a year that we, at the point when we started actually having those conversations. But again, because we were friends before that, we had a lot of conversations. You know, she was also, you know, somebody close to her and her family was also diagnosed with cancer. So, you know, I became a big part of her personal support system just to help her navigate like how best to help her family and how best to be supportive. And, you know, thinking back to like, here's what I needed that I probably didn't tell people. So here's what you might need. Here's what, you know, and then we joked about, you know, dogs being diagnosed, and her dog was diagnosed, right, with cancer. So it was like you now like, wow, like even closer, right? So you have all of these different dynamics of
her dog and your dog.
Her dog,
just her dog.
Yeah, her dog. So we're dealing with all these different dynamics, right, of like connection that just strengthened us and caused us to have a lot of different conversations that you probably don't even have in the early dating phases. And, you know, I think because we were coworkers, you know, like we had a very close family at work, and we all leaned on each other for different things, right? Like, you know, all type of stuff, right? You know, you know, we had a group that was going through all of life, you know? So I think because of that, it just allowed us to bond and strengthen that connection really organically.
But there's a fine line in that of coworker, friend, community.
Oh yeah.
And
So I you know, so when my manager and I we're very close friends, or we are still very close friends, and he hired her, and I remember when he hired her, this is before Janice passed, and you know, long before she passed, probably a couple of years before then. And, you know, I remember, you know, we used to joke, like, you know, because, you know, a bunch of guys joking about different things and whatever, and, you know, going out and hanging out. So, you know, he's talking crazy stuff. And when he hired her, I was just like, are you serious? Like, come on. Like, Oscar, that's so stereotypical. This, you know, beautiful, slim woman. And you know, and personally, I would joke with him and like give him, you know, jive him like, your wife better not see her that you hired her. You know, and it's not like I was at the time thinking like, oh yeah, I'm gonna date this woman in a few years. But it was more just be like noticing like she's very attractive. She's very beautiful. I would notice that she looked really nice in dresses, you know, this is during the Me Too movement.
Yeah.
She didn't get a compliment from me on a dress, shoes, nothing until I was like ready to date her. And even I wouldn't compliment, like I wouldn't say good presentation, good job on that report, nothing. She got nothing because I didn't want any, you know, implication of or insinuation that I'm, you know, out of line.
Any talk like that.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah.
Shaking hands.
Yeah, shaking.
Maybe.
Hey, nice job. Right.
No hugs publicly or anything like that. Okay,
exactly.
All right.
But I was like, okay. But at the same time, I'm focused. I'm married. I'm taking care of my wife. She's sick. Right. So I'm head down anyway. But you know, fast forward, and after a while, I was like, you know, when I was ready to date, and you know, the market realized she was single, I was like, I can't let, nah. And I told her, and she actually laughed. Like when I said, hey, like, let's go out, hang out. She was like, oh, I'll invite everybody. And I'm like, no, let's just you and I. Okay, and she was just like, is this a date? And it's almost like a movie. I was like, yeah, I mean, she was like, it was funny to her, but I think we both felt that connection, so it was natural.
But let me ask too, though. I mean,
Yeah.
you kind of qualified her as part of your community.
Yes.
And you had gone through kind of, to a great extent, parallel experiences in many ways. Was it about proximity that she was in that community and, oh, this makes sense, a natural leap? No. Or because there are others to consider, but I mean, just kind of give me some characterization of that.
I think, so I was, you and I talked about this before around like, do you do computer love? And I personally didn't have the desire or the time to be on apps and all of that. Like I was like you, so focused on the kids, and I at the time was still dealing with kind of the grief aspect of like, where are the kids? I'm now a single dad, this identity change. But I was dating. I mean, I was going out and hanging out, and we talked about the people on Facebook and social media that'll DM you in the inbox like, I saw your picture, you look good, and I'm like, thank you, hey, so you do that and kind of casual interactions with people. But for me, I was like, man, if I'm going to date somebody, it's going to be my path of travel. Like it's going to be because I'm in a grocery store, they're in Home Depot, they, I see him on the highway. Maybe I'm like, hey, get off this, something. Ooh, but it's not. Okay. It's not going to be because it wasn't going to be inorganic. Okay. Like at least from my experience, what I desired, what I wanted.
What was more familiar?
What was more familiar?
Because I mean, you did find your
and I actually thought and I thought, like in my head, like we talked back to like the profile and who you think. Yeah. I thought it would be a certain, a certain person from a certain group, not particularly specifically people, but I thought it would be like, okay, this person from this thing that I go to, or this place that I go to, or this group that I know, or this culture or community that I'm familiar with. So I thought it was, but I didn't expect, work. And I also didn't expect Jordan, because we were so close and we were very close friends. And because I think partially also because she didn't have children, and her experience wasn't like loss with children, kind of like we talked the profile that we think. Yeah. What I found in her was more like her ability to connect with me and the kids ultimately was because, one, we were very close friends, but two, because she had been a stepchild. So she understood this element of the children's perspective that I feel like a lot of other people couldn't speak to at that time, at least didn't speak to. And she was fine, right? Like, I mean, and at this point, I could acknowledge that the dresses, she's killing it, right? And and I saw we would go out to social happy hours, and I would see men like making their way, and I'm like, nah, I'm gonna. Part of my language, I'm cock blocking today, right? So
sorry, brother. Sorry, cowboy.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, exactly. So, so I think that was a big part of it. But yeah.
And then we're fast forwarding and moving. To the idea
traveling through space and time.
We really are. Exactly. Yeah, bending space over here. Yeah. But when you started to then think about the marriage aspect, were you thinking, hey, what I didn't get from the previous relationship, that you wanted to move quickly, knowing either you were more equipped to move into a marriage, that it was about a redo? Was it a do-over to a degree? Was it deferred fulfillment because it didn't go to the level it should have in the previous relationship? Yeah. And therefore, it's let me
move forward. I think it was more like recognizing that what do I have to wait for? Right. There was a part of me that just because of am I ready and is it time and has it been long enough? There was a part of me like there's a song Khalid Location, right? There's a part in it where he's like, ironically, it came on the radio this morning and I was listening to it and it made me think back to around that time when I was that song, I guess, had been out for a year or so. And I remember that song playing at that time. And it was like, there's a lyric like, I didn't want to fall for you. So there was a part where I didn't want to fall for her so quickly. Right. And that part, I think, for me was like, well, what am I fighting? Right. The only thing I need to be okay with or think about is, are the kids ready? And is, it may be my family. Does she connect with my family? But that was the biggest thing. And I mean, I joke all the time that Jackie is part of the reason that I decided to date her, because I think we had gone out at one point. We had gone out and he saw, I think Jackie saw us someplace and we were hanging out, engaging. And at that point, we came back and Jackie's like, Dad, I think you should date Miss Jordan. And I'm like, man, it's too soon. What are you talking about? She's like, no,
stop it.
Yeah. And I'm like, man, what are you crazy? And this is like 4 or 5 months. Right. But anyway, so like at that point, I'm like, what am I waiting for? What is time at this point in life? And, I'm thinking like the first half of this game of life, I didn't do well. Right. In relationships, in marriage in particular, like I got to finish the second half strong. Right. Like we talking about, recruiting and getting players for the bench. Like this is like, I got to go finish the second half strong in this life. And I want it to be filled with joy. And I still feel, and I felt then, that this person brought an element of joy into my life that I didn't have before. So that was it.
Yeah.
I think the biggest struggle a lot of times was really, my friends and my family, maybe mostly my friends, honestly. I think they were so used to the Jamal and Janice brand that they, one, understandably were worried about the kids. How are the kids going to be? How are the kids going to react?
Yep.
But I don't think they really understood where I was in my pain in my marriage. So I think when I was ready to move forward, I don't think a lot of them got it.
Yeah. How much was known or talked about with friends? Say a little bit about that.
No, I think it was, it was this element where in the relationship, a lot of people, I would call my friends a lot, right? My boy Cam, Hillary, Randy, like I would be on the phone with them a lot.
Yeah.
And Jarrell, my friends in Texas, I had like a handful of friends who I would talk to all the time. And a lot of times it was like a lifeline. Okay. And I don't think they realized that it was a lifeline, because I would walk into my home at the end of a day. This is obviously not during the period where Janice was sick, but prior to that, I would walk into my home at the end of the day, like, God, we got this beef, this tension in the air, this thing that we argued about. It's been 2 weeks. It's still there. And like, or just, the underlying current some days would just, if the trust wind blew in, that was just it. It just sat there sometimes. And I would walk in after work. I would find reasons to leave the house. I'm gonna go to the grocery store. I'll do it. Right. Like, and I don't think they realized that at 7:45, 8 o'clock, when I would call them, it was me calling because I'm reaching for a lifeline. Like, thank God I made it.
Yeah.
Right. And when I met Jordan, we started dating and got to the point where we both knew this is the relationship we want to be in. Like at that point, I was like, I'm good. Like, I love y'all. Y'all are my people. Yeah. I'm going to call you. But I don't think I didn't need to call him in the morning anymore because I didn't need that lifeline per se. And I think a lot of my friends feel, some of them, how you changed? I know I changed. I changed because I lost. Yes. I lost my late wife. I became a single dad. I had to find myself again, and I got remarried, and I'm in a marriage that I'm fulfilled, right? And I feel whole in myself and who I am. And I think that part for a lot of people was hard, or it has been hard. And I don't think they recognize that my change was a metamorphosis because of a bunch of different things. Yeah, right. And it was an evolution of who I am now. And I think a lot of that happens, and I think that's been a challenge.
They were stuck.
In many cases, I think they were stuck with the old Jamal. Right. Right. And
that's not allowing you to move forward because it doesn't maybe look the way they thought it would.
Right.
In there,
Right.
but this is your life.
Yeah, it is.
This
yeah.
is your fulfillment.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then they're like, hey, are you sure you want to move forward? Are you sure this is the person? Are you sure the kids are okay? I thought about this.
Yes. Many over and over. Not a snap decision.
I thought about why I shouldn't.
Yeah.
And I thought about why I should.
Right.
Right. So that's been the and my mother and my father, they love Jordan.
Yeah.
My sister is like, she's, my sister and my kids, they've got like the final vote.
Yeah.
Like their votes, and they were both like, right? It doesn't mean it's easy. Doesn't mean that our relationship has been frictionless. Doesn't mean that our marriage has been without challenge. That in many cases are tied to a lot of the things that you and I talk about, right? The triggers that I'm still learning from my past relationship are triggers because I go through things today. The things that my kids do, and they, Jordan's got to deal with the dynamics of being a stepmom to children.
Yeah.
Whose mother is a ghost, right? Like all of these things play into it, but
she's strong enough.
yeah.
She's open enough. She knows you guys are in this together. So you will have the discussions because you only become closer, not turned away from one another. Because that's not what you're trying to do. You're trying to stay close.
Exactly.
So she got the max deal, didn't she, brother?
She got the max deal, man. Yeah.
Got all the money on that.
She don't have an opt-out clause.
No. You keep that one moving. No more 10 days for some of these and whatever that we haven't really talked about.
Yep.
But you knew. She's getting the multi-max deal on this.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, I got you.
So speaking of deals, man.
Okay.
I mean, so I've got my multi-year, my max contract.
Yes.
With Jordan.
Yeah.
She's gonna hate that we're talking about her in this capacity. She's gonna be like, you didn't tell me that's the conversation you was gonna be having. But so I know you were dating somebody. You also reached that point where you were ready to have more longer term companionship and kind of and not the the trials, so to speak. What was that like, and how's that been?
Yeah, so it been 20 years since I had dated, and I started with Computer Love. I didn't know what that was all about. Got my little profile up and everything, as I talked about in other episodes. I believe we talked about some of that to a great extent. And I actually found the woman through Computer Love.
Okay.
Interestingly.
Listen.
But what's so funny is she was already a friend of one of mine for 20 years or whatever.
6 degrees of separation.
So
she was already.
It was just interesting how that kind of turned out. So in a previous episode, we talked about kind of what I'm looking for and what I'm attracted to and such. She was certainly all that. Gorgeous. She was worldly. And she had a lot of different interests and places that she would travel to and introduce me to, and that was great. She was fit, fine, and funny.
Yes, those are the 3 Fs.
Right,
yes.
the 3 Fs, and we've coined that. Get some shirts made or something like that, So, but I mentioned I was gonna talk about her in this particular episode, and I think here are the things that she kind of had said to me in our communication is that it's got to be hard to date a widowed father. This is the first relationship of any substance after that time. And it's also this friend group that are very much a part of my life as well. And her trying to engender grace with them, to be a part of joining folk I've known for 20, 30 years.
It's important, right? Yeah. It's a key part of like that process becoming part of the community.
Yeah. She's part of my universe. How quickly can she become one where it seems like she's been there quite some time. And so it was very, very difficult to try to pull all of that off and also because of who I am to my children and everything that is related
Right.
to just keeping everything moving.
Yeah.
And I'll say this about her, to her credit, for sure. One of my boys, because you're starting to introduce people around.
Yep.
So one of my boys, Sheldon Jordan, he came to the house. He was in town. She was here. I wanted to get a sense, hey man, meet her and whatever. It's just kind of a it just so happened. It wasn't really arranged. And again, to her credit, it's thoughtful. She's very, very thoughtful.
Yeah.
And she's sat with a friend of mine, my man Sheldon, and I was in another room or something, and said, how is he doing? So she asked first
Right.
to understand, is he ready?
Right.
And Sheldon's response was, if he wasn't, you wouldn't be here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think initially that sense of the season I was in, she understood or was cognizant of, he's working through,
right.
but therefore he's going to get to this place. And I think there was a lot that she wanted that the season I was in didn't match up at that time.
Yeah. And that's important, right? And I think that's also when you think back to, I mean, we can say we're ready, but I think we understand and learn these things almost real time that, oh, okay, I'm not ready for this piece. Or back to the point, like when our community, our friends, they care about us, they may be, is it too soon? Again, you're thinking about that real time,
right?
Even as you progress through different steps, like when you graduate to holding hands, you graduate to all of these different things.
That's a good point,
right? Like you're like, wait, I'm holding hands. Am I ready for this?
Right.
Right. I don't know.
What does this say to the outside world? Do they know my history?
Right.
So yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, it's like that basic things. I mean, I say it's
true.
Basic things like that. I don't think get factored into.
Yeah.
Or again, give us credit that we are thinking about this real time.
Yeah. And I think that translation to her about who I am now was also challenging in the sense of, and it could not be easy for her.
Right.
I am coming from a marriage of 17 years where I'm only out here because she passed away. Right. Really.
Right.
And just that idea of where I'm coming from in what I can still give and moving on when that time was right. Whereas she has been single and hasn't had that same lived experience. So we're coming at it also from the perspective of, I've had these 17 plus years with one woman. We did everything, had children, worked through challenges. And she's had a series of relationships.
Right.
And so her lived experience, she's not 20 and 30. We're not moving into that same phase of life. Again, it would be different if it were 20, 30 and trying to have children and what have you. Yeah. I've done all of that.
Yeah, there's so much that I hate to say it, but just so much that you've already checked off the box.
Yeah.
Checked off the list. And also, to your point, like you had a great relationship, and now for anybody to come in and fulfill you, it's a different need.
Yeah.
It's not like, hey, I need you to help me check these boxes off.
Right.
It's more like I'm just, I think in a way it's like the identify what companionship looks like.
Right.
After this, in a scenario where you still trying to figure out, and I think for you, we talked about it, like the focus on the kids. I think that was for you a kid.
Yeah, I think so too. And then it's especially with the children. I've been raising children for 15 years, and I think that's on me. I didn't or was not ready for someone to kind of enter that space and with their perspective, it's kind of, but I don't have to make the choice about who that person is quite yet.
Right.
So therefore that is something else in the season.
Yeah.
It can address. If
That's fair, right? Because I think it's also like, are you in a place where you're ready to enable co-parenting?
Yeah.
Even if it's a companion partner, like are you ready to do that? And I think that's a step.
Yep.
Right. That's another one of those steps, like holding hands. Now we're going out for a weekend trip. Yeah. Now we're like all of these different things you graduate to you kind of get through each level. And then it's like, oh, like, okay, you watching the kids, or you scolding the kids or disciplining them or whatever. I think those are all things that play. It's tough.
And
right?
And I think that's in the advanced season, essentially, where I wasn't there. So I would think in the sense of a traditional relationship, a calendar year of being together with somebody, for dating someone for a few years, would be enough to prove this person is worthy of much more. Let's go deeper. In the situation where I am a single dad,
it's more
first
complex
relationship,
than that. Yeah.
It's more complex, and it's a different season that doesn't match up with. It's not about necessarily calendar, but it's about where I am as far as my season, first big kind of serious relationship, and still learning about myself, gathering more information about myself real time as things. I didn't have that information until I started to date seriously, to then see what season am I in. And again, there's not a hurry to make a decision, because she's not of childbearing age. I'm not having any more children. My commitment is to the children and everything that flows from it. And I'm still getting over my own grief as well.
Yeah, you're realizing that it's still like, the triggers are still there.
They're still there. And ultimately, Jamal, it's unfair for her to have another understanding other than the signals I can give her and the conversation and communication that we have. Yeah. So it was unfair for me to press on if I didn't know where I was going to be.
That's a good point, right? And I think that goes into like the risks of dating somebody who's grieving, right? Like that's the reality, is like, you don't know, there's no perfect process for everybody. And I think it's different. You're going to, like you said, you'll have your triggers and they may pop up at different moments, and that trigger may set you forward. It could set you back. I mean, it could set you forward, or it could set you back, depending on what it is. And it could give you that aha moment, like, okay, I'm ready, or no, I'm not, right? And it could be because of a song, because of a moment, because of a date, the kids, graduating, right? Like,
but as we've talked about, and many of you will know, that those triggers are always going to be there. Yeah. It's a great part of the life that you had, the person you were with before, and wanting to move forward with plenty of the elements that worked with that next person. And kind of bottom line, understanding when that point happens, when you have, and I probably had to have gone through gaining more information as much about myself as I was gaining information and data about her. Yeah,
throughout the process.
Yeah. Exactly.
How did like the community like play into, how did they react to when you started dating, but then when they were like, okay, it's one person now, like how do you feel like they reacted?
I think ultimately, logistically, logically, they knew Dave's got to move forward. He's got to be happy again. Then when you are starting to show interest in someone, they get that you need to move on and move really forward, because not move on, find somebody that, as we talked about, that's how we define it. But it's this idea of they emotionally weren't ready because of the great influence of who was there before that woman
It
who
was
there.
It was the Dave and the Lonnie brand.
Exactly.
Right.
And I think that's also important in an upcoming episode where we give here are some tips moving forward. And it is that idea of, hey, this is who I am and where I am.
Yeah.
But I'm excited about what's coming next.
Right.
And I have went through that period in the relationship I was in, and it was, but not ready for that decision. You're the one, what have you.
Right.
So I think that's the hardest part. So your answer to your question about how they received her is, I mean, thought she was lovely the way I had talked about her. And when they met her, who you did and Jordan did as well, and some others. And I think it was difficult for someone they knew, my late wife, for 20, 30 years.
Some of them were close friends.
Close
before
friends.
You were married. And,
Right. And also remember, I found my late wife in my community.
Yeah, she was part of the group.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so for that comparison with Nalani to her, the woman I was dating, is unfair.
Yeah.
And I check folk on it, and I check myself too.
Yeah. It's funny. I had a conversation with somebody about like the idea, actually my sister, we were talking about like the idea of moving forward and the idea of like what it means to the community and how people look at it. And I remember like we were talking about your friends, your family, your community get so used to, they know you and Nalani, and they love you both individually and as a couple. And like I said before, like they don't necessarily know all of the gory details of like the inner workings of the marriage, but they know that as close as they can be to it, they love this.
Yeah.
They love you too. And the same thing for me. I feel like I had a lot of friends that also kind of felt that way about me, but I also have friends and other people who are close enough to me to know that I've had people who said to me and to family members, happiness looks so good on Jamal. Right. And I think that's hard for people to get through and accept.
Yeah.
That, oh, wow, like I'm used to seeing David this way, and I'm used to seeing David's happiness with Nalani. I don't know if I want to see it with somebody else.
Yeah.
And I think it's a legitimate and fair challenge for family, because they're also in the grieving process, but I think their process is different.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not just grieving our late wives. They're grieving the end of a relationship.
Right.
And the end of a union.
And the product of that relationship as well. I know for me, I've said it many times and it bears repeating, I am who I am because of the women in my life. Not only just my late wife and all of the decades and life experience that we had together, but also because of my mother and the lessons that she was difficult first divorce, and then her second spouse died as well. So she's been through and has an example of how to continue to live, not just exist, but to live and find happiness and remain interesting, not sullenly. And you know, she continues to move on. And so, and the aunties in my life, and these friends that I've had for a long time, as much as the males as well in my life, that I am who I am today and have a relationship with women because of the women who have had such a great impact in my life now and forever. And I have to trust some of those friends as well, because they're always looking out for me professionally, personally. They're making decisions. My man Sheldon, as I told you before, I was in some job somewhere in Cincinnati, and it's deep. What you doing, brother? You need to move back.
Oh,
to New
I mean,
York.
it's true.
You
As
know,
I had,
come on now.
Yeah, the same. I had friends call me even through my dating process, from the point I was ready to date to the point that I was like just dating Jordan, to the point where I was like ready to, you know, go get that ring. Yeah. Are you sure? What about the kids? Are you sure? What about the kid? And some of them were like, hey, man, remember some of them knew some of the challenges that I had in my previous marriage. They were like, remember what you went through.
Yeah.
Right. And some of them were like, you sure you want to go through that again? I'm like, it's not going to be the same thing because I'm not the same person.
That's exactly right.
And this is not the same person.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think in all fairness to them, they're doing what they are supposed to do.
Right.
Within reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But
out of love, out of concern,
yeah.
and what have you. But it's moving forward. This is what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
And you have to trust me, meaning you or
Yep.
I, on what that looks like.
Yep.
So let's look at some of what we have learned to kind of take away from this
I like
discussion.
That. Yep.
And hit me with kind of the first
I
thing
think we talked about it a little bit in the previous episodes around like the dating process, which I think one is, and you've just talked about that a little bit. Grieve first, and then date second.
Yeah.
Right. Like there are stages of the grief process, the fundamental stages, but then there are still within that these other layers of triggers that still kind of keep you in this grieving process of recall and memories and things of that sort. So I would say that that's an important part to be honest with yourself and this person who you might be dating, with like where you are in that process, so that they can understand and be prepared that every day won't be the same as the previous day. Every day won't be easy, per se. Right.
And I think it's kind of the next thing is be honest with your bandwidth.
Yes.
What you can really take on.
Yeah.
And it is difficult, given the situations that we're in, is to explain, hey, I have all of these different career, I got to keep the house afloat. The kids have their situations.
Yep.
I'm dealing with fallout just because they're teenagers, let alone they don't have their mother anymore. Oh, and also I am grieving myself. So it's own that part of it.
Right.
To say, hey, this is what it is. And just be open about that as often as you can, not, and in a way of, here's the example, you see how this worked. We can't go on this trip because I have to do X, Y, and Z.
Exactly.
Going through those seasons.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's true. Sorry, the kids are here this week, or I got to drive them to camp, or we've got to, like whatever. Like these are all things that are real things, right? And I think, that the bandwidth is real. Yeah. The ghost of the late wife, she's not competition.
No.
Right? Like how, I think, as the in our place, it's our responsibility to not make these women feel like they're competing against, a ghost, a late wife, a passionate relationship, or a mother, right? It's like, that's the reality. Is like we have to do the best we can to not put these women on this pedestal,
right? Or
not make them think that they're running a race against somebody else. But the other part is also, they should also know, like, this is not like you're coming in to compete. Yeah. Right. You're not coming here to outshine this other, this other person, right? Who is no longer here. You have different shoes, different walk. Right. It's going to be a different experience, a different journey for you in this process as the person I'm dating now, the person I'm married to, right? Yeah. Like, it's a totally different experience. Like, our late wives have never been in the experience in a position that these women that we're dating.
That's true. Ooh, that's a good point.
Right? Like, this is a first time for you, and like nobody else has done this.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think that's reality, is like you're in it's a totally different sport. Yeah. Right.
And what a challenge that can be.
Yeah.
And we have to recognize that. And the longer the time that mother, one, and wife, two, that same person, is gone or has passed, the more mythical in stature they may ascend. And so you have to be careful in the conversations and how you refer to that late wife in the situation. If it's good, it's bad. There's always some good and whatever. Even if your relationship was challenging, there was plenty of good. Yeah. You produced children and who loved. Come on now. Exactly. So I think that's also a difficult challenge for that next woman coming in. Yep. The one thing I'll also say too about the children is, for all the different women you meet, they don't all have to meet
No.
your children.
Mm-mm.
Okay, period.
Yeah, they don't, and they didn't.
Yeah, right.
No, but it's true. I mean, I think there's a part where, yes, we talked about it. I do want to see at some point,
For sure,
the way that this person interacts with my children, the way that my children respond to actually seeing somebody. They may know dad's going out on a date, or they may know I'll be back, at 10, 11 or whatever, like whatever time. Don't watch my time. Right. I used to tell my kids that don't ask me what time I'm coming home. Right. But at some point they do, but it doesn't have to be everybody.
You're a little late.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't get a call from you.
Yeah.
You're grounded. You're grounded, sir.
Yeah, exactly. I think Zayef was for sure sitting on the couch when I came home one day, like, So, but
and also, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. But I think that's an important part, right? Like, it's true. Not everybody deserves it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what Jordan said to me about, you first have to feel strongly about that person, then moving on. Then you can gather more information, that interaction with your children. Because it's not through your children that you are moving forward specifically.
And it's funny that you say that, because I remember Jordan, at the point when we were ready to date, she asked me, did you talk to the kids yet?
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, what do you mean? She was just like, did you talk to the kids and let them know that you were ready to date, that you were ready to date me? And because she was part of the community, she also knew them. Yeah. So she was also very sensitive. Like, she didn't want them to. Right. So I think that's an important part. Like, the thoughtfulness, and not just us, being able to know, hey, this is the person I'm ready to kind of go to the next step with. Yeah. But also their awareness of that. Right.
I think, which is that last point, I think is.
Yeah. Move at the speed of truth, not the speed of anybody's pressure.
That's it.
Right. Like, people.
Because you certainly didn't.
Yeah. I mean, I go back to people who were like, hey, well, you should wait 5 years. One person said 10. Right. I'd be 60. I wouldn't be dating yet, according to their calendar. Wow. Right. So
you'll be meeting women at the community center when you're doing chair yoga or something. Was that what they envisioned for you?
I don't know. So, but I think it is. It's not succumbing to the pressure of anybody else to move too quick or to move too slow. Yeah. You and I talked about this at the point when we felt like we were ready for connection. Mm-hmm. At the point when we felt like I need more than just my friends, my family, my kids, who are everything, but I need this other piece of joy and those other piece of fuel, I call it, right, in my life, right? We talk about the 5 love languages, like, how do you fill the tank, right?
Exactly.
Like, you fill the tank, and every relationship has a different capacity to fill that tank. And at some point in time, we need that connection from, a potential partner, right? Or a potential companion. And that's the reality. But yeah, we shouldn't fall into anybody else's, kind of framework, so to speak.
No.
But
yeah. So we want to hear from you all.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. What's your experiences? Yeah. We want to hear that. We want you to DM us, send us messages, hit us on our new phone number.
Yep. It's going to be right there or maybe there.
I'm not sure. Wherever. I'm not trying to remember it this time.
It may be right at the bottom, but it's there. It's clear.
There. Yes.
So
646 something.
Yeah. Hit us up. Hit us
up. Send us a message. Leave us a voicemail, text message, DM us, drop us something.
Yep. Subscribe.
Share, subscribe. All the things on Get Back Up Podcast. And we appreciate you joining us. This was a really important conversation for us to have with you all here today. And we hope that you're also having these conversations too.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you for joining us on Getting Back Up, Finding Life After Death. If something in today's episode spoke to you, pass it on, because somebody out there needs to hear this.
For sure. We're on all the social mausoleums, so follow us on Instagram, Threads, TikTok. Mostly it will be in the form of Get Back Up podcast.
And be sure to subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast.
And remember, getting knocked down is part of life.
But getting back up, that's how we live.
We'll see y'all next time.